Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Hey.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to make sure that there is no feedback or echo because I have my microphone, which might also be able to pick up your voice.
Oh, okay.
Let me grab my headphones to make it better.
All right.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Beautiful, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to just to talk about the podcast and how how it has impacted me and just how kind of like seeing what you've done on. I've kind of like looked at your YouTube channel and other other stuff as well.
Mm. Yeah, I actually I did never got to find out how we got to cross paths on the internet. I don't know what
I
your
sure
first
had it.
impression was.
Okay. I think it was. I think I was probably just looking. I don't know how that. I think I just probably watched some of your YouTube channels, and then that's how I like kind of. Then I looked at your website, and then I saw
Got
like, okay, this guy talks about like mental health. I was like, it would be nice to have him on the podcast that I just started up to get his perspective on the topic as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that I said this in our last conversation, just quickly hopping on the phone, but super appreciative to you for bringing another avenue for conversations around men's mental health into the world. Because as you have a deep relationship with, um, it is just so important to be able to give men the voice to be able to come back to having conversations that have traditionally been more, you know, uncomfortable to have or have been like traditionally uh, seen to be weak for having conversations about emotions or mental health as men. So yeah, I really want to express my gratitude to you for creating this space.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's I'm thinking kind of feedback from the people on the podcast that said, it's been, very impactful to them. And at first, when I was very, I think I told you this before, but I was very hesitant about starting the podcast and starting this group because I didn't know like how people would respond to a men's mental health podcast. But apparently, it's much more needed, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely so.
And I think yeah, through the podcast, it's really about finding our way back to finding the path back to deeper conversations and just having the having us creating the space to have this conversation so that bounces back off each other so that we can get to know each other better and have deeper friendships as well.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. So there's a gentleman that I got to meet through a men's work weekend through the organization of Man Talks, which is led by a gentleman named Connor Beaton, and he had a very close friend of his there, a very close friend of his there, also hosting with him and facilitating with him, named Dewey Freeman, and Dewey was doing just like an excellent job of expressing how these deeper conversations where we're sharing our most intimate or what I'll say as vulnerable parts are what create the intimacy that whether you're man, woman, whatever, we're all deeply craving at a very, very deep core fundamental human need is to just be seen, to be heard, to be loved. And the only way that we could do that is by being authentically ourselves, even if that authenticity means sharing parts of ourselves that we ourselves are not so happy about or proud of, you know?
Yeah, and like I feel like it's kind of like a secret that like everyone has like a secret desire to want to connect on a deeper level, but it's kind of like everyone's kind of afraid to make that first step. So
Right.
we think that other people don't have that desire. We just have to like make that first step, and then when we try to initiate that, then within those conversations, then that's when that the connection actually happens. So it's kind of
Right.
like it's so easy to feel like you're kind of like the only one that like kind of wants to have those conversations, but
Mm,
when you do like the like stuff like a podcast or like a men's group, then you realize that actually men actually do want to do this.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So well said. So very true.
So, but yeah, it's been a good. I think I've been doing this since October, so it's been a good um, podcast run, and
4 or
I
5 months.
just like
Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of I was gonna say I think yeah I do it for just for the men and just to see. It's like when doing this, I see how it impacts them and how they come back from the podcast feeling like they're better known like for who they are, but they're also
Mhm.
loved for who they are, and that's like what makes me happy is to know that they know that they have like that support. So
Right.
that's
Right. A platform for self-expression and acceptance within that self-expression.
yeah.
Yeah. So where do we get to go with this podcast? What kind of journeys are you about to lead me on through this podcast?
So I guess I don't know if I want to ask like okay like how like I guess because I kind of know a little bit of like I was watching like a little bit of your YouTube videos, but I guess I can like ask um, like what kind of like started you on mental health journey and what kind of got you started on that.
Yeah, really great question. And one thing that I'll highlight here before I really answer your question is that you'll never really find that answer through the YouTube videos that I have created so far.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
in
Okay.
other words, I haven't shared too much of my story on my YouTube channel yet, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and I have been coming to that place of sharing it over time. And so this is a really wonderful place to be able to share much more in depth look at just what has brought me to want to make a YouTube channel, what has brought me to want to have more conversations on mental health, anxiety, and everything that goes along with it. Um, so basically, my journey starts with anxiety. I'm
Okay.
an anxiety integration coach now. I get to teach emotional intelligence now, and it really all started because I needed to understand anxiety and emotions very deeply myself because I was just in a place of um, incessant debilitating thoughts, intrusive thinking, obsessive
So kind of
thinking.
like the anxiety like OCD kind of thing.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
consider it OCD, you can consider it generalized anxiety.
Okay,
Um,
I have that so.
yeah,
Yeah.
most of us do. Um,
It's
like
like the little
like you
secret
said.
secret that
Yeah,
everyone has.
exactly. Once one person opens up about it and then they feel safe, then another person's like, "Oh shit, like, okay, I could tell other people that I have this too."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my journey started with anxiety. Really, at the age of 8 is when I was like experiencing this voice in my head that I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" You
Yeah.
know, I had no idea what was going on. My parents did their absolute best to support me. Um, with the knowledge that they had. And then outside of that, at 8 years old, you don't really feel comfortable opening up to anybody else.
Yeah,
Um,
because you kind of don't have like that emotional, I guess, awareness, even maybe.
right.
Maybe.
You don't have the emotional awareness. You want to be able to feel safe with whoever you're sharing it with. So it often becomes suppressed in the event that we don't feel like it's safe to share it. And so I was able to share it with my parents, and so deeply grateful for their willingness to learn and do their best to listen and support. Um, and then thankfully, my anxiety, in a debilitating way, had disappeared or um, not really been present until I was 18.
Okay.
Where when I was 18, I went through probably the most intense form of my anxiety, where I was getting ready to graduate from high school
Oh
and
yeah, that's because I
go
was
to college.
yeah. So I was kind of like talking to. I don't want to like kind of. It's kind of like a tangent a little bit, but so right now, so me and the people that do the podcast are actually freshmen in college. So it's like it's good to kind because that transition is like where a lot of anxiety comes up. But yeah,
Certainly. Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah,
So I appreciate you sharing that. That freshman year was probably one of the most transformative years of my life. Uh,
yeah.
so very cool that you're doing that. Um, so right before I went into my freshman year, I was considering what schools to go to while experiencing this very debilitating level of anxiety where I didn't want to leave my room. It was difficult for me to maintain relationships. I went from being one of the most social people in my school to wearing my headphones and not looking up in the hallways. Um, you know, just kind of getting lost in that hole of what anxiety really can be. That very dark hole of what anxiety can be. And it kind of came to a head when I was getting ready to go to an orientation for this school that was at the top of my list. I had only applied to 3 schools. It was in Florida on the West Coast, known as Florida Gulf Coast University.
On the West Coast.
On the West Coast of
Oh
Florida,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, on the West Coast of Florida. I thought you meant like on the West Coast of the U.S. Like okay.
No, 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 no. And I live in Connecticut.
Okay.
Um, And so it was a 3-hour flight, and I had visited it once prior, and it was top of my list. It was just an all around epic school. I mean, they had a wakeboarding team. You can go swimming in the ocean on your breaks in between classes. Like
Yeah, that's
it was
definitely nice.
incredible. Um, yeah. So I was like all hyped up, and I ended up getting accepted, and I had an orientation set up in July, just about a month before I was supposed to move in. And my father and my uncle were all prepared with me. We were going to go stay down there. It was just 3 days long. And we were going to, celebrate, do the orientation, come home, bada bing, bada boom, have a good time. So I'm in the airport um, up here in Connecticut. And I had been feeling that anxiety pretty much the entire day, but at a little bit of a higher level. And I'm in the airport, go through security. I have about maybe 30 minutes before we board the plane. And I have a massive panic attack.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's wow.
And the panic attack stopped me dead in my tracks. So much so that plane that took off in 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I never boarded.
Oh, okay.
Not
So you're
only
kind
did
of
I
like,
never, yeah, not only did I never board, but I actually totally never went to school there because of it.
okay.
So this whole plan that I had of going to this fabulous school, going to start fresh in this new place, um, getting some nice sunshine on my face in between classes, uh, totally disappeared in front of me. And me, my father, my uncle all drove home. Um, Thankfully, they were in full support. And that was a massive turning point in my anxiety and just recognizing, like, okay, I really need to do something here.
Yeah, I guess like it got to the point where like it like limited you from achieving like your dreams and going to
Right.
your school.
Right, exactly. Like it was like really, I mean, it was interfering in my life significantly prior, but uh, at this point, it was like, okay, I gotta consider something here. Um, and so then, just to make a what could be a long story a little bit shorter, um, what ended up being this massive catalyst led me to really deeply understanding and having a desire to understand in my freshman year um, what was going on with the mind, how the mind operated. Um, this was just a couple of months before I started my journey on Zoloft. So I also started medication that year.
Oh, I'm on
And
Zoloft too.
yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
that's that's the YouTube journey that I shared a lot about, um, and so it just led me into this very deep desire to understand what it means to essentially be human. It led me into this massive existential crisis of wanting to understand the mind, anxiety, so that I can like basically come back to a place where I wasn't feeling the way that I was feeling and recognizing that there was actually significantly more for me to experience in this life other than this like wretched anxiety that I was experiencing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, I guess like there's two parts of it. It's like, so why you're kind of like asking like why did you have the anxiety and how could you learn to just just be again or just be human again?
Yeah, great questions. Anxiety for me, and I say this quite frequently on my YouTube channel, is anxiety is a symptom of being disconnected from ourselves. Um,
I
and
yeah
when
I
I
agree.
right, like
Yeah.
anxiety gets a really bad rap because it's a very painful experience to have. It's very debilitating. Um, but at its core, oftentimes, anxiety really is just like this friend of ours that's asking us to look at something that needs to be resolved. Um, and everybody has their own journey, their own reasons why they've become disconnected from themselves. But for the most part, through the coaching work that I get to do now, through my own journey, my own research, um, all of the learning that I've gotten to do over the years, oftentimes the reason that we become disconnected from ourselves is number one, because of the conditioning that we receive throughout our youngest years when we are most vulnerable and most dependent on others for survival, um,
Yeah.
right up into just the social conditioning of what society also teaches us and tells us how to be and what to be, and it very easily takes us away from what our more natural instincts would be to do, and therefore just creates a bit of a severance
So I
between.
guess it's like especially for men it could do that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, certainly, just to have a relationship with our emotions is an extremely important part, if not the most important part of mental health. Um, and if we're told that it's not okay to cry as men, I mean, think about how much is being held on to and suppressed inside of you that is ultimately leading further and further to you feeling more clouded out and disconnected from yourself, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's like I guess maybe that's how like maybe like anxiety attacks or panic attacks happen is if it's like you become so disconnected from yourself that it's kind of like forced to happen to force to like face reality.
Exactly. Exactly. And one piece that is important for me to share here is that within that conditioning um, is the experience of just throughout our lifetime experiencing trauma, right? And I know
Yeah,
trauma comes across as a very intense word in most cases, and our minds often go to PTSD or currently known as PTSI, and you know veterans that are coming back from battlefields and they saw these insane, very, very uh, tragic things while they were out there. But I read the definition of trauma by a neurologist known as Dr. Robert Scare, and it goes as, and I'm going to do my best to quote this right now. Trauma is Um, trauma is. Oh, I'm gonna get it. Trauma is. Oh, I gotta get this. I'm gonna tell you what. The book's right next to me. So
okay. Take your time.
it is any negative life event that occurs in a state of relative helplessness.
Wow.
Any negative life event that occurs in a state of relative helplessness.
Yeah.
And so you think about that and you think about like if you were a child that was routinely having your most important emotional needs go unmet,
Hmm.
over and over again, whether it's you crying and asking for support, crying and asking to be fed, but routinely you're not being supported, routinely you're not having these needs met. It creates these little emotional wounds within you that you learn as being
To
what the
distance
world is
yourself from.
actually like. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because then you have to alter your way of life so that you can receive the support that you need, aka the support that your caregiver happens to respond to, which that's where these little disconnections start to happen and grow and then build and then build and then they create these coping mechanisms and these protective parts of ourselves that may be very unhealthy, you know?
Yeah, I guess that kind of goes to like our beginning kind of conversation of how when you actually be authentic and when you kind of like show parts of yourself and that leads to true connection. But like when we try to do that when we're young and that doesn't like is and it's not received well, then we learn how to detach from that.
Right.
If I make sense.
Yeah, no, it makes full sense. I mean, that's literally that's it. Like if you can sum it up what you just said, that's it. We start to become different people because we feel like we need to be somebody else in order to be accepted and loved. And as social animals where being loved is also sometimes synonymous with survival, it creates a scenario where we'll sometimes do anything that we need to in order to be loved. And that means sometimes just totally abandoning ourselves, which leads to anxiety.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. So it's a big deal. And And some people are more prone to anxiety in one way or another, and it expresses itself differently in one person versus another. And there is the component to it of like, what are we downloading genetically from our parents that predisposes us to have a nervous system that has more of a
More
capacity
vulnerable
for
to,
stress.
yeah.
Yeah. Um and so we all do grow up with some baseline level of capacity to deal with the stresses of life. But if we're not given the tools to understand ourselves, to understand our nervous systems, you know, then we just, as we're seeing with, a lot of the people today, like we're just, everyone's just doing their best, but everybody's running around kind of like with it, like as like a chicken with their head cut off when it comes to dealing with their emotions, because we've never been taught.
Yeah, that makes that's a perfect like metaphor,
Mm, mm.
because you just kind of like you're just trying your best in the best way that you especially like the coping things that you do. It might not be healthy, but it's kind of you just kind of use it because that's all you know.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. There was I think it was, do you know Dr. Gabor Mate?
No.
Oh, you would love him, I think. I'll put you on to him after the podcast. He's like a world renowned doctor in the field of basically like really bringing the understandings of trauma and the
Mhm.
impacts of trauma into the world. And he basically he basically how do I want to express this? I'm almost losing my train of thought on it because I got so excited about Dr. Mate. Um, yeah, he basically was talking about. Oh, I'm gonna forget. You got to bring me back. Where did we just leave off on?
You're talking about like trauma and the trauma book, or the trauma book that we got. Like,
Yeah.
what's his like main like what's his well I guess like I can ask like what's his main
Oh,
like
the solution.
perspective on it. Solution.
Yes. Okay. So you were talking about you were talking about basically how these coping mechanisms are like the best that people have, right? And
Yeah.
it's what they
It's kind of
do.
like or it could be like as a result of trauma, people do those coping mechanisms, but or
Right.
yeah,
Right. And so he was saying it was either Dr. Gabor Mate or it was somebody else very similar to him that was saying addiction is the solution.
to
And
trauma.
like to trauma. Really,
Yeah,
like in other words, like we talk about drug addicts or sex addicts or whatever type of addict it happens to be as like this frowned upon, very judged thing in our society. When in
yeah. That is yeah. But go on. Yeah.
Yeah, when in reality, like oftentimes addiction is the solution for a lot of the pain that these people are feeling internally, and they never had the support or education to do anything differently, and they, because of that, it led them to this place.
Hmm.
And and so addiction and things like this have become the solution, even though those solutions, and I make air quotes, are not the healthiest solutions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I was trying to go. I got so excited about it, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Mm. So it's pretty fascinating once we get into like really being able to understand trauma's role in it and conditioning and so on and so forth. Like, really, everybody's so magical. Like, when I say magical, like, everybody's so powerful. I just don't, like, we haven't all been taught like how powerful we are and like what we get to do with it, you know?
Yeah, that's another thing. It's kind of you don't become like connected to that power, so you don't know. You kind of just go through life and you don't really know what to do about things.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that's where just like having emotional intelligence education is really, really important. If we're in our adult years, it's no less important than it is when we're children. We might just have more baggage and it might take a little bit more to actually acquire and work through some things. That's what coaching's for, or therapy's for, and so on and so forth, you know?
Yeah, that's a yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So, may I ask what brought you on your journey?
Okay, so for me, I didn't. So when I was 12 is when I started to have anxiety symptoms and stuff like that. I didn't know. I didn't like know how to like word it. I didn't know like what was going on. I just thought it was like many a lot of people, you think you're just crazy. So when I
Right.
was when I was 12, it's kind of when I started. But um, but then a lot of stuff was going on at that time too. It's like middle school and junior high school.
Hmm.
So that transition, and then I think I kind of like just had like this just regular anxiety, and then
Hmm.
I went through like a so in the like middle of high school went through like a depressive episode. So
Hmm.
after that, that's when I was like, okay, I gotta get help, and I gotta um like face this. And I didn't so I started going to therapy in August of 2021. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I can't believe it's been that long, but that's kind of like how it started. Is I had so when I first started with anxiety, it was just like everyday worry, and then it would go like with the OCD, like the intrusive thoughts and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It would be it start so I like with the OCD. It starts with so for me, it did actually start with hand washing and germs and stuff like that, but then
Yep.
it moved over to other areas of my life. So I don't think I told you this before, but so I'm a Christian, so I identify as a Christian,
Hmm.
and OCD went to that. So I noticed like how OCD goes into the important like the things that you deem are important.
Right.
Yeah. So
Certainly
sorry,
so.
it's, yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks. So I had like the anxiety, or I think it what's called scrupulosity. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
that's the right term. So it was that for a while, and then I I kept having to seek reassurance from my mom. I would constantly like seek reassurance about the status of my salvation, and that was kind of where that went to. And then it just like went to other areas of um, just like I think what um, like when you go through like an adolescence, like the insecurities and just like the social anxieties and stuff like that.
Right.
So I went like to that, but yeah, I didn't. So I kind of dealt with this, and I didn't know. I thought it was just like I thought it was just me just being weird or crazy, but I
As
didn't
most
have
of
a
us do.
I didn't have a language for it until I sought out therapy and I could finally see what was going on.
Right.
So
Right. Well,
yeah,
I want to just take a moment to celebrate you on the fact that you were willing to ask for help. You know, the
yeah,
the fact that you were willing to actually embark on that journey, because it takes a lot to go on that journey. And as a
yeah.
result, man,
It
you're
took me
here.
like I think I was just like, um, well, some I'm not gonna. How do I say it? So I don't know how I word this. I guess seeing other people benefit from therapy, it also kind of inspired me. So I kind of did a little bit of research about it, and I kind of like that's when I sought out a therapist. So I
Hmm.
just plus you kind of get to a point where you just like have to ask for help. It's
Yeah.
just like yeah,
Yeah, you do. I mean, but it's important to recognize like not everybody does. You know what
yeah,
I mean? So like there's something in you that was willing to be vulnerable, was willing to open up, and as a result you benefited from now being able to do that, and just being able to download the language and the understandings. And not only that, but clearly your journey has led to you also being able to now provide that to other people in the form of this podcast.
yeah. So that's kind of so I'm doing like undergrad in counseling psychology, and that's kind of like why I want to like be a therapist and do that work, so I could
Hmm.
you want to help people into because you see like the journey that you go through, so you don't so you want to like help people you want to provide that like knowledge and language because I
Right.
think when people like have something to name it like helps so much to have like something to name like this is no I'm not crazy it's just I have this
Yeah.
and I could need to take the next steps to uh, like help myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, maybe we should write a book and the
Yeah,
title should be Actually You're Not Crazy.
yeah, that's
And
a
then
good title.
I
Yeah,
I mean, because that's honestly that's the starting point. We just all think we're absolutely fucking nuts. And that's not the case. It's just like this normal human experience that happens as a result of like the world that we live in.
yeah, and it just especially with the because especially with just like the intrusive thoughts when you're getting those you kind of like think that you, you kind of just you kind of just like you get swallowed by them like so much where it
Mm-hmm.
was a few years ago you kind of like um I think like like with my OCD started out as like the physical compulsions then it went to like
Mm-hmm.
pure OCD which is like kind of like in your head
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so yeah
Yeah. Yeah, I know both of them very well.
yeah
No doubt about that. Um yeah, and it's just incredible. I'm just thinking about your age involved with it too. Like you are starting your journey very early. In
hmm
comparison to me, I'm only using it in comparison to me. Early is relative, but you're starting your journey very early, which allows you to create that emotional mastery where you're not swallowed up by them as much anymore. And you realize that all thoughts, good and bad, are often intrusive just in the sense that they naturally just come into the head like any other thought.
yeah
Sometimes without our choice, and that we get to be dancing with them instead of overrun by them. Um,
yeah that's kind of like what I had to learn about that as well
right, right, right. And now you're dancing.
yeah so
Yeah.
and I think like I think another thing that I talk about on this on the Men's College podcast is like in like junior high school like middle school I actually was like I was constantly bullied in at that time so
Mm-hmm.
that like I would say that that trauma did contribute to a lot of um, mental health problems that would come up like within the next couple of years after that and so
Certainly.
it took a long time for me to understand that and like kind of
Mm-hmm.
see the relation to that. But I
Yeah.
think, which I think it's very, I think that is very common to a lot of men. is
Definitely so.
to be to go through that in like middle and high school or just around that time.
Hmm.
So it's like um, what another thing I talk a lot about is men's friendship on the podcast, and
Hmm.
so it's like kind of hard to um, like make in your like adult life. It's kind of hard to make those friendships because your trauma is basically being rejected by men. So how are you gonna like make friendships? It's it's a
It's
crazy.
it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious loop.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
sure.
What would you say that your relationship to those emotions around bullying is now?
Are you talking about like as far as for the past or just?
Yeah, from the past. Like, what is your relationship to your past now
I would
in
say
comparison to like a year ago?
so. I would say so. I for past me, I would. It's definitely a lot of compassion for past me because you weren't you don't have control over what goes on, and so a lot of like through like therapy is just working on how you view your past self
Mm-hmm.
and not like kind of blaming yourself for what happened. It's more of just you kind of like to integrate that is to have compassion for your past self and to also to heal those parts of yourself that were kind of like shamed or like that or shunned. So you kind of like um so it's like now in your present day you affirm the things that were shamed in the past.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
totally understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's kind of it's like in living in that living in your identity
Yeah.
is affirming it um because like in the past it was just it was kind of it was shamed, so you're just um you learn to heal that shame.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. You're like, you're befriending those parts of yourself that in the past you have resented or felt ashamed of.
right.
Yeah. And then by design, those parts that were so heavy in your body to hold on to for all those years being suppressed, now they're like on for the ride, giving you a ton of energy to do the things that you want to do,
Yeah.
like feeling like you have a best friend in your corner, ready to help you conquer the world and do what you want to do.
And it's kind of so it's kind of yeah, it's that, and it's also realizing that that environment didn't allow for authenticity or any of that. You like you might so back then I say back then like it was like 10 years ago, but like back then it's like you we weren't in the environment that allowed for you to be like yourself.
Right.
So now that you're in a better environment, now that you're able to have better connections and that stuff, you're able to be your authentic self.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And that's like one of the benefits of this podcast is you're creating safe spaces and you're influencing safe spaces so that people can feel more comfortable to take their masks off and share themselves vulnerably in
Yeah,
those safe spaces. There's a really good quote that I like. I don't know who said it, but I'm sure it was passed down through hundreds of years of history. And it is shame dies in safe shame
I
dies
think
when held in when when shared in safe spaces, something along those lines.
I think I heard something like that too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that's gigantic. That's
yeah. It's
gigantic.
like it's that is it's transformative and you like because I think um we kind of like as like growing up as like children we learn shame kind of like
Mm.
we learn that toxic shame mindset to like to hide ourselves and then it like
Hmm.
takes a lot of like unlearning that
Right.
with the right people
Right.
to um, be affirmed and accepted for who you are.
Certainly so. Certainly so. And that's like, I read something else recently that said unlearning is just as sacred as learning. Um, because, yeah, I mean, God bless the people who raised us, um, you know, but they don't always have the answers as to how to raise us in the way that is best for us. You know what I mean? They don't always know, and of course, that's like on a scale of severity. Some caregivers may have been extremely toxic or
Hmm.
created serious trauma or tragedy in our life. And in other cases, we might have had caregivers who very deeply took care of us, um, and and in both cases, what we take from them might not have always been it might not have always been what we actually needed, right?
Yeah,
Especially on the traumatic and tragic side, but even in the what seems to be more healthy, you know.
yeah, because I think, and I was talking like to a lot of people on the podcast. It's like most people, we didn't have those like extreme like cases of we didn't have like extreme like childhood trauma, but it's mostly
Right.
like our parents weren't um, like they weren't emotionally. I guess I would say maybe I'll say intelligent or aware of themselves.
Yeah,
So that kind of
tuned.
like affected, yeah, attuned. So this kind of like affected how we grew up.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And most of the older generations, and I don't know how old your parents are, but
my parents are Gen X.
are Gen X. Okay,
Yeah, my
what is
parents are
Gen
Gen X.
X? Gen X like 50s right now?
Gen X is they were born between 1965 and 1979.
Okay,
So
okay.
my
So
parents are like from the early to mid 70s.
got it. Okay, so my my parents are a little bit older than yours now, but both generations, um, yeah, they just weren't raised in a culture that knew anything about emotional intelligence, you know.
Yeah,
And now, thankfully, like the world is opening up to having emotional intelligence and uh, attunement be like a very important thing in their lives.
yeah.
You
I feel
know.
like it started. I guess it started with like the millennials and Gen Z kind of um, like uh, starting that up or just changing the game with like as far as mental health.
Yeah, we were like, we can't take this shit anymore. We need to do something different.
Yeah. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Certainly so. Certainly so. What other journeys you got for us planned on this podcast?
So right now it's a lot. I do a lot of so as so that once we go into psychology, I do want to say attachment. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what we kind of talk about like the whole episode, but also friendship is such a huge area that I like really want to study and talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and also like perhaps make a book on it because I feel like it's just like especially men's friendship isn't like I don't know it's like hard to find a book on that, and it's hard to like well at least like I feel like now it's better, but I still want to there's still a lot of dynamics on it.
Right.
Discuss
Understood.
about friendship. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have you heard of Connor Beaton before or the brand Man Talks?
Have I heard that? I don't know. That sounds like something I'm like subscribed to on Spotify, but I don't know. It sounds like a podcast. Is it a
There is a man.
podcast?
Yeah, there is a podcast for it as well.
Okay.
Either way, I would highly, if you're interested in that, I would highly suggest checking out Man Talks on Instagram, or if you already listened to the podcast, listening to the podcast. And he
Wait, I think I
also
do. Wait a second. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I think
have
I
the
do. Is it
revelation.
is it the one with like the is it like the blue like
Yes,
logo? Yeah,
I'm
okay,
nearly
I
certain.
do. Yeah, I do listen to them.
Okay, yeah,
It's really
so
good.
they're really good. I am a big fan of Connor's, and they have basically an organization called the Alliance within Man Talks, where you get to join a men's group. Um, and in case any listeners aren't familiar with what a men's group is, it's essentially a safe space and very supportive space for men to support other men, to be in a safe space, to be vulnerable, to share what's happening in a person's life, no matter how emotional it happens to be, and to be held in friendship and in accountability and in service to each other in a really, really gorgeous way. And so I bring it up just because, well, you brought up men's friendship, and how important that is.
Yeah, that is that yeah, definitely I guess I guess I'll invite that Connor guy on the podcast.
You should invite him on the podcast. He's a
Yeah,
really good dude.
that's definitely someone that I would like to interview.
Yeah. Yeah, he's I think he just turned 40. He's got quite a few years of experience under his belt. And if you do want to invite him onto the podcast, I suggest reading his book first, called Men's Work.
Okay.
Yeah, not too
Oh
big of a
yeah.
book.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm looking it up right now. So yeah, I know this. I know this. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, he's like, I think, one of the staples in the men's work atmosphere.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of this generally my mission with the podcast and just what I hope to like happen.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that any other closing comments or?
Any other closing comments? Well, super grateful that you found me through YouTube and that you found enough value on there that you were willing to have a deeper conversation with me. Number one. Also, I know it took us weeks to find a good schedule that we could match up and do it. So I'm glad that we were able to find that. And then the last thing that I'll share is, um, if anybody's listening and they are looking for more resources on anxiety and how to heal through anxiety and really how to make anxiety our best friend, so that we could learn from it. I have my YouTube channel where I have a whole, free library of content, where people can drop into different practices and insights and understandings. I also have launching. When does this podcast come out?
It should come out like I have to like I usually just like add add little intros and just edit it, and then it should come
Yeah,
out like later today.
later today. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So next week, I am going to be releasing a self-led um, opportunity for people to work through their anxiety, and do it in a way that they can go at their own pace. They can download the understandings of themselves, the understandings of the nervous system, and all of the practices that are most vital to that. I'm releasing that project Thursday of next week. Um, and that will be like an all-encompassing journey for one person to go on. So it's a little bit more focused, a little bit easier to digest than just going through my YouTube channel. And that will be on my website, marcellolagreca.com, starting next Thursday. And yeah, really happy to share that with people. And then lastly, yeah, I think the only other thing to share here is that if people are wanting more personalized assistance, I get to do one-on-one work with people experiencing anxiety as well. And so always feel free to reach out to me through my website. And I'm sure you'll include some show notes here
Yeah, I can leave
where
the links in the
in the
description.
description. Sweet.
Yeah.
That's all I got. And then the last thing that I want everybody to leave with is just knowing that we are so much more than the anxiety that we experience. And as we both got to share in this podcast today, you are not fucking crazy. You're just going through some shit that's asking you to go deeper into who you actually are.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you for being on the podcast, and I hope to get more insights soon.
You got it. You got it. We'll keep each other up to date.
All right.
Much love, man. Have a good one.
All right.